Hey guys, Wyatt Claypool here. You would rightfully assume if things are going to get passed in this parliament, it's mostly going to be passed with the Liberals being joined with either the NDP or the Bloc Québécois. But a couple of days ago, a bill was actually passed with the help of the federal Conservatives. And now we are going to break down why that is, because a lot of people were confused as to why Pierre Poilievre's Conservatives would ever vote in favor of something that Mark Carney's Liberals put forward, and it's actually a kind of complicated situation. Is Bill C-5 the one we are talking about today? Very long title, an act to enact the Free Trade and Labor Mobility in Canada Act and the Building Canada Act. Very, very fluid title there, just rolls right off the tongue. But a lot of people were thinking, like, this is kind of strange. Aren't you like, is this the uniparty all coming together, showing itself to us, and they don't care about average Canadians? No. Is it a good bill? No. Did the Conservatives vote for it for good reason? Yes. And that's a very strange thing for me to vocalize here. And I'm going to break it down in just a second. I just want to remind you guys, hey, if you like my show and you like the way I talk about politics, make sure to drop a like on this video. Go and click that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are not yet a subscriber. We are trying to make it to 100,000 subscribers by mid-December of this year. And also leave a comment on what you think on this fairly controversial bill, because definitely there is going to be a lot of discussion about it in the coming days. So this bill, Bill C-5, I am calling it bad. At the same time, I fully understand why the Conservatives voted for it. This is one of those things where to vote against it, you would end up suffering the consequences of anything good that comes from it. But if you vote for it and nothing good comes of it, you don't really suffer any consequences. And that is what has gone on here. Do I think that what Mark Carney's going to do with this bill is start modernizing Canada, get pipelines built, create his vaunted energy corridor, get bridges built, do all this stuff? No, I don't think he's going to build more ports. I don't think he's going to do really anything major with this bill. It's a lot of showy kind of politics that I'm passing a bill that says we're going to get stuff done. And so, as a conservative MP, are you going to sit there and say, I vote against the get stuff done bill? At worst, it doesn't get stuff done, and no one's going to blame you for voting for it. It was called the Get Stuff Done bill. And so, that's kind of the game that's taking place right now. I just want to show this CBC article because I think they actually do a pretty good job of actually summing this thing up. They say in this article, headline right here, Liberal majority projects bill passes. Liberals major projects bill passes House of Commons with Conservative support. Sorry for reading that wrong. I've been on flights and trips and road trips for like the last 2.5 weeks. It's ridiculous. But this article says the Liberal government's major projects legislation passed in the House of Commons on Friday evening as MPs wrapped up the spring parliamentary sitting. Bill C-5, the One Canada Economy Act, essentially gives Cabinet the ability to pick certain projects to speed through the regulatory process with an eye to projects that can deliver an economic boost to Canada, help strengthen the country's autonomy and resilience, quote, advance the interests of Indigenous people, unquote, and contribute to a, quote, clean economy. And those last two things are very key there as to why I'm saying that this bill may not get anything done. Because what Carney is doing in this bill is saying, I want to get stuff done. At the same time, when it comes to something like pipelines, all the provinces have to agree to do it, and you have to do endless consultations with Indigenous band councils, and you have to do like endless consultations on environmental safety that environmental groups can hold up and slow down and force you to do over again. So this is one of those things where conservatives are basically letting the liberals have what they want and then let them fail on their own terms. If they succeed and they start building tons of pipelines, well, we can't really sit here and complain. It would be a good thing if we started building pipelines. Would it feel a little bit raw in terms of like, this is sort of hypocritical that you guys held up projects forever and now you're basically doing what the conservatives wanted to do? That would suck, but at least we'd be building pipelines and average people's lives would be getting better. I think the gamble the conservatives are making, and I think it's an 80% plus gamble to be making, is that the liberals are going to get maybe a couple things done with this, but by the next election, they're not going to talk a lot about the Major Projects Act. They're not going to be marketing this as a reason to reelect them because it's probably going to be something that doesn't really get used a lot. Cabinet can speed up projects, but cabinet doesn't like a lot of projects. Do you think that they're going to start speeding up new mines? They're going to start speeding up oil and gas projects or pipelines? No, no. Again, Mark Carney is saying, okay, yeah, we'll get stuff done, but you have to go through this checklist of other people in order to get your project sped up, which means nothing's being sped up because in order to get sped up, you have to do the process, the entire process that everyone else has to go through. So you have to go through indigenous consultations, eco consultations. You have to go through the provincial legislatures to get approval if you want to build stuff across their jurisdiction. So it basically is Mark Carney saying, I'm serious, but not that serious. So he's going to pretend that he wants to get stuff done. And now he gets to outsource the blame for things not getting done to indigenous groups, to the provinces, to, environmental regulations. So climate change is forcing us to slow this whole thing down. And if you're the conservatives, you vote for it. And if nothing gets done, you can say, see, he's worthless. He doesn't know what he's doing. He put all of his political capital together to get this thing passed in a very short period of time, which is actually genuinely kind of impressive. He got this whole thing done in like a month when usually a piece of legislation like this could take over a year potentially. But he put a lot of political capital into getting this thing passed. And if nothing comes of it in a year, well, Pierre Poilievre, who is currently campaigning for the by-election in the, I think it's, what is it? The battle, not battle first. Oh my goodness. I'm just forgetting things left and right. But he's running for a by-election in Alberta. I just got off a flight like 2 hours ago. But he can then, in a year's time, go to the Canadian public and say, see, we even backed him up on getting stuff done, and he still won't do it. He was probably hoping that we would oppose it, so then he could look at us, the NDP and the Bloc, say, see, they don't want to do it. This is disgusting. Can't believe that they're holding this thing up. This was what was going to make the country better or whatever. And so that's where basically the conservatives are having to be very careful with this, justifying it very carefully. And I think that they're not wrong to have voted for it. I think I had a statement here from the NDP. Here is actually, yes, Jenny Kwan, an NDP MP. Her reacting to it, basically saying that the bill was not like in favor of indigenous rights enough and all this stuff. And this is demonstrating also why the opposition to the bill was not exactly a good side of the aisle to be on, because everyone else's voices, the Bloc Québécois, the NDP, and Elizabeth May with the Greens, and the media, the way they're arguing against the bill is basically saying that it's not draconian enough. It doesn't put enough restrictions on projects. So you're kind of, damned if you do and damned if you don't if you're the conservatives. But she says here, the NDP has forced the government to split up its omnibus major projects legislation, Bill C-5, forcing Parliament to vote directly on its more controversial clauses. After Friday's question period, NDP MP Jenny Kwan, Vancouver East, raised a point of order arguing the bill's two parts were unrelated to one another, which the speaker ruled in favor of. And then so they're trying to turn this into a big win. Later on, it says NDP MP Leah Gazin, Winnipeg Centre, echoed Kwan's concern, saying the second half of Bill C-5 violates the government's constitutional obligation to obtain the free, prior, and informed consent of Indigenous rights holders. Even more, it's an attack on health and safety standards and environmental protections that will hurt everyone, especially working people. And so from a partisan conservative perspective, I hope the NDP gets some juice out of this. I hope that they end up, seeming like progressive warriors and clawing away some people from the liberals. But for the most part, I think that this is going to be a big nothing burger in the long run. It would have hurt the conservatives in the short run if they voted against it, or actually it would have hurt them in the long run, because if they voted against it and the whole bill died because the conservatives didn't vote for it and the NDP and the Bloc also didn't vote for it, then again, Carney gets to go around saying, I wanted to save the country, but these guys wouldn't let me. So the conservatives are saying, okay, go save the country. Because in theory, I'm not opposed to cabinet speeding up projects. I just think we should do mass deregulation. Make it so anyone's projects can be fast-tracked. Because if it's good for that project to be fast-tracked, why can't that project be fast-tracked? Really, this is just indicting the whole regulatory system in Canada right now. Everything is hard to do. And so we had to take a bill that basically tries to not admit that the regulatory process is bad, but just says we should speed these few projects up. Regulations are fine, but just not for this project. which is all very silly and dumb. But anyways, that should be it for this video, guys. So Bill C-5, it's one of those weird political situations where it's actually smart for the conservatives to vote in favor of what is a bad bill. Is the bill like going to violate your rights or hurt you? No, it's just not very good, and it doesn't deregulate in the ways that we'd probably want it to. But that's just how politics works sometimes. Anyways, so that's it for me today, guys. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, do all that fantastic stuff, and I'll see you guys later.